Lindsey, what's in your lens today?
Let's talk about this new website. The Trump administration rolled out a new feature this week that made me pause. Not because it's surprising, but because it's the most formal version yet of something we've seen for years. It's called Media Offender of the Week, a running list on the White House website naming news outlets it claims have misled the public. The banner splashed across the top reads, misleading, biased, exposed. That's the headline. But the real story is what it signals. So this week, the administration singled out the Boston Globe, CBS News, and The Independent as its first offenders, along with a, quote, hall of shame for repeat violators. Those people are CNN, MSNBC, or MS Now, Politico, the Associated Press, and even us at The Hill. We caught a stray. The White House says this is about holding the media accountable. But let's be honest. This is about controlling the narrative, especially as the president faces backlash for his own words. And those words matter. The latest uproar stems from Trump's response to a video of 6 Democratic members of Congress urging service members to refuse illegal orders and honor their oath to the Constitution. Trump posted on Truth Social, quote, seditious behavior punishable by death, and even reposted another comment that read, hang them. That's the kind of rhetoric that would dominate news cycles in any democracy. So now we're watching the White House punish the press for covering it. But this didn't start with a website. This is the culmination of a years-long pattern of belittling, mocking, and outright attacking journalists for simply doing their jobs. Just remember these moments.
Because they let him in. Are you stupid? Are you a stupid person?
I'm not thinking, Mr.
That's
President.
okay. I know you're not thinking. You never do.
I'm sorry?
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person.
That's not just a bad attitude. That's bad policy. Since the start of his second term, the administration has used lawsuits, shutdowns of government-funded outlets, and new physical restrictions that actually block journalists from key government spaces. Sometimes it targets specific outlets, other times it bans press altogether. Either way, it breaks bipartisan precedent and undermines the public's right to know. So what's really happening here? 2 things. First, he's trying to control the narrative. If the public stops trusting journalism, then they're left with only one version of the truth. The administration's truth. Second, weakening the watchdog. So journalism is supposed to challenge power, not fear punishment from it. You can disagree with coverage, you can even call out inaccuracies, but when a president builds a digital hall of shame to intimidate reporters further, mocks them on camera, and limits their access to the government they're meant to hold accountable, that's not okay. A free press doesn't always make leaders comfortable. That's the point of it. And if the administration is naming offenders of the week, let's remember targeting the messenger doesn't make the message any less true.
He's making a list, checking it twice.
This is ridiculous. You don't find this? The Hill is on it. You should be offended.
Find it ridiculous.
Okay, thank you.
The Hill is
because The Hill's in a prestigious, amazing.
Who wrote a column for The Hill?
He put us on there as a repeat offender.
Yeah, I tried to click through to see what meant by that, and I was.
He didn't have any description.
I wanted The Hill to have an entire
20
page. I wanted maybe more detail.
And maybe he doesn't understand how journalism works. Like when you have an opinion piece, at the top it says these views are not associated.
Right. The Hill runs opinion pieces by left-wing people, right-wing people, moderate people.
So does the New York Times.
It runs my radars as columns. It's not, so the columns that are being run should not be an example of the bias of the organization. That's true for any media organization. So yes, I agree with you. I think this is quite silly overall.
Very much so.
They did this.
And I know that because this is just more
like if you want to be a media company, be a media company. You're the White House. You can and the White House, I think, should not have a cozy relationship with the press, nor should agencies of the federal government. This is why nobody wanted to sign the Defense Department's thing that we agree will never say anything critical about you or report information you don't want us to report. It's just not how journalism works. Not going to do it. Trump's White House is far from the first White House to have an uncomfortable relationship with the press. Obama didn't like the press coverage he got. Bush didn't like the press coverage he got. Biden didn't like the press coverage he got. But Trump gets the criticism and then gives it back to them with equal vigor.
Are you stupid, girl? That's what he said this week.
Right, that's what he's insulting, but he feels insulted, he insults back.
She asked the question, he said, are you stupid? That's not, I don't know how's a question insulting him? Like, they have a pattern of just being condescending and extremely rude. And that's just one issue, because some people think that his rude behavior is funny. I don't find it that entertaining at all. But also the actual incidents that have happened, like trying to pull funding from public broadcasting, which I know that you don't care about. So we'll move on quickly.
No, I care about it. I'm glad we're doing it.
Yeah, you're glad we're doing it?
I support it.
Okay, fine. But like, reporters not being able to access the Department of War unless they sign some ridiculous agreement.
Yeah, that I criticize.
That's ridiculous. Like kicking the AP out of the press pool for a little bit because he didn't like what they said. Like suing ABC and like suing CBS and 60 Minutes and winning these lawsuits, but still putting them on the enemies of the list and using this money to fund his personal library. These are all things that are not presidential behavior. These are all things that when someone says something wrong about you, you are trying to make people scared to do it again because you're trying to make an example out of these networks or these reporters. I would think as a reporter who's just trying to do their job.
For defamation, and because the thing that George Stephanopoulos said was incorrect.
Right. So George
Stephanopoulos has that
Stephanopoulos,
same right as everyone
yes,
else.
but even with CBS, he went after CBS because of a pause in a moment when Kamala was talking about her foreign policy. So that's ridiculous. And they paid him millions of dollars.
My point is some of these things have, in my view, more legitimacy than others.
But he's done many things that would, I think, propel an argument that he's trying to.
It's, you know.
Yes, it's like if you watch The Breakfast Club, Charlemagne the God has Donkey of the Day. It's a radio entertainment show. The president is pointing out.
That's not an attack on anyone.
It's just pointing out who's the idiot of the day. So the president is calling press who's reporting on him the idiot of the day.
Amendment rights.
No, I don't think that that's right for the president if he's doing it. Again,
he has the right to do it.
He has the right to do it, but also I have the right to say this is foolish. And again, I have the right to point to that same 36% approval rating and him spending yet another day on something nonsensical. Would you agree that this is not the top of the priority list?
Well, he probably got some intern to do it.
No, actually, two leaders from Doge, which is now a defunct agency, I guess, went over to his department of building websites. And I'm paraphrasing what it's actually called, but that's what they do. And so I think they probably were working on this, if I had to call out. And so if you want people getting paid by the government who used to work for Doge building stuff like this, continue shelling out the money because you get so annoyed about how we spend government funds.
I don't think this is what they're working on.
They are working on building and fixing government websites, and this is one that just went up.
Is that not a valid...
This is the first website that I'm seeing in the last week since that was announced.
We have no, unless you know something.
I don't know a direct line, but
if
they oversee the proper workings.
I thought they were working on websites, by which I mean making them easier for constituents and citizens to use and for people to
this is the flagship of the
go through
week.
them to get benefits and things you think are important. The government benefits flowing to the people, making that... I mean, the Obamacare website, if you remember, was a disaster.
Yes, I remember the ancient history of the Obamacare. You keep bringing that up. I'm talking about today, a new website went up, and somebody worked on it.
Okay,
so
I don't know.
We're going to find out who tomorrow.
Right.
I'm going to come to the table.
That's a tremendous waste of their time if they were on that, and I'm happy to criticize it if it's the case, but we have no information that that's what they were working on. That's not my understanding of what they were working on.
They're working on an Obamacare website from 10 years ago.
No.
That's your understanding?
I'm something like that. There are other websites.
Like, name one, because the Obamacare is old and the Republicans don't want it. So why would a Republican administration have people working on a new healthcare website when they don't even want to fund healthcare? The president recently said this week, no, I don't think we should move forward with them subsidies. So he wants healthcare to be extremely high. We might as well just plan on getting rid of Obamacare. If you're a Republican, you shouldn't work on websites to make it easier.
Social Security has a website. I mean, making the Department of Transportation's website better, or making housing and urban development, that could be beneficial to people. People use those services.
We have no information that that's what they're working on. So again, they could just work on this media bias website. They could be working on this media bias website, is my point.
Right,
we both don't know.
Wildly speculating.
We're just wildly speculating, because they're certainly not working on healthcare. So I want you to stop referencing Obamacare, because they're certainly not working on that.
I was referencing something that was once broken, the website, and it was a legitimate use of some government employee's time to fix it. And that could be the case again.
Could be.
All right, accusations of war crimes being thrown around after a bombshell report detailing the first of several strikes on alleged narco-terrorists in the Caribbean. Stay with us. All right, Lindsay, what's in your lens today?
Let's talk about it. When you strip away the noise, polls don't vote, but people do. Sometimes the polls are loud enough that you can't help but lean in and listen. And right here, right now, they're screaming. Most recently, CNN's Harry Enton laid it out clearly. He walked through a historical bad Gallup poll for President Donald Trump, and his reaction said it all.
I mean, it's a disaster if it holds towards the midterm elections. And I should note, of course, it's not alone. I mean, just take a look here. This is Gallup. This is the longest running poll. You know, Gallup has been conducting polls since my father was a kid, and my father was born in 1927, had me in his 60s. Look at this in January. Donald Trump's not approving. Not too bad, not too great. It was at -1 point, right within the margin of error, breaking even. But look at this now. Negative 24 points, way, way down. We're talking about a drop of over 20 points.
And he wasn't done there. He kept going straight into the historical comparisons that nobody wants attached to their presidency.
I just put up the Republican presidents. But look, the only one who's worse for me, either among Republicans or Democrats at this point in second term, is Richard Nixon. And of course, Richard Nixon had to wave adios amigos goodbye less than a year after this poll was taken. He was at -36 points. Trump at -24 points. That beats, or is worse, I should say, beats in the wrong direction. George W. Bush, -19 points. His Republican Party, of course, suffered major losses in the 2006 midterm elections. Dwight Eisenhower, +31 points. Donald Trump has never smelt that at all.
Now, this is just the latest in a string of data points painting a picture the White House doesn't want framed. Falling approval, softening support inside the MAGA world, Democrats competitive in deep red places, and national polling averages showing Trump underwater across every major survey. In today's Tennessee special election, where Democrats are actually competitive in a district that's usually carried by Trump by a mile, is another flashing red light. If Democrats flip that seat, the ripple won't stay in Tennessee. Now the president has his own version of reality. He posted on Truth Social recently that he had the highest poll numbers of his political career. But many voters aren't feeling that high. They're feeling the high prices, though. They're feeling the impact of tariffs and aggressive ICE raids. And experts say Americans simply don't believe their living expenses match the administration's economic victory laps it's taking. Some of the most telling cracks are showing with the independent voters and Latino voters. A UC Berkeley survey found that 57% oppose deporting all immigrants here without legal status. Pew found that 71% of Latinos think the administration is doing too much on deportation. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with a country that's not just uneasy, it's fed up. And when Americans think you're doing a terrible job, that anger doesn't stay quiet. It shows up at the polls. So you love Enton and his reporting, and he bent down to the floor.
Give him hell, Harry.
He bent down to the floor and was like, this is the lowest since Nixon, who you know left office. So that's not really great for him. He hasn't seen the plus amount of points that we've seen other presidents like Reagan have. And the only person even close to him was Bush, who we know people thought was, people across the board didn't think that he was that great of a president when he was leaving. I remember it was kind of contentious.
Now Democrats.
And as I said, now it's like a 180. I don't know what happened.
Democrats will love Trump under President J.D. Vance's reign. I think that's a foregone conclusion at this point. Look, there's no arguing with what the poll numbers show. The poll numbers show that the first year of Trump's second term has not gone well, and we know why that is. There's frustration about the state of the economy, inflation still being high, grocery prices still being high. Donald Trump has not done enough to assuage that wrongdoing and feels, in fact, evinces some disregard for it, some pretending that it's not a problem, which is the exact same thing that sunk Biden's presidency. So I think it's been a mistake. I also think it's fairly obvious why the economy has not rebounded. It's the tariffs and other economic policies that I have been against from the start, and it's going to undo everything else. I think the good news for Trump is that he still gets high marks for his, he's trusted on crime and on immigration. Now the immigration numbers have come down too because it's becoming too punitive and too random and to just get rid of everybody. The Stephen Miller fantasy of just deporting literally every single person is not good with the American people or smart policy. So if they would rein in the tariff policy, bring down the immigration policy a little bit, and continue being tough on crime and just good governance, they'll do fine in the midterms. But their eyes not on the ball right now.
And I think when we look at what happened last month with the off-year elections and people calling it like a blue tsunami, even though some of those wins were expected. Then we look to a race that President Trump is actually paying attention to and has mentioned in Tennessee,
Today.
a congressional seat today, because it's kind of one of those off elections too, where Democrats weren't even competitive at all in that region, and they're actually eyeing that seat, which would change some things within Congress, which is uncomfortable,
Yeah, we'll
an
see.
early signal for that. So I guess we'll talk about this tomorrow, depending on what the outcome is. But that's one of the things where it should be an indication. If you didn't look at last month as what the American people are voting on, you can certainly look at today's election. We'll see how that goes. But the midterms are now closer than ever. Like, we were talking about them earlier this year. We're like, we don't know what the strategy is. We don't know what people are doing. Marjorie Taylor Greene might be trying to protect or change what she wants to do in Congress.
She's leaving
Yeah, she's
Congress.
leaving completely. And that's why I thought maybe her intention was to win in the midterms. But she seems like she just has disassociated from the party. So there's a larger
She's
conversation.
taken a lot of flack recently for, and this is, I think this is a fair point. Why wouldn't you just serve out the rest of your term and just decline to
I
run for
agree.
re-election, serve out the rest of your term? Some male conservative commentators criticized her on X and said that, and she responded by saying, "This is a sexist criticism." It's just saying serve out the post. It's what? It's a couple more months. It's not that much of an ask, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, and I think that the reason why she's leaving is because she felt personally attacked, or she used some language like a battered wife type of. So, well, no, she's saying that, and my point is like,
Don't
that's
make
the
it
type of
personal.
president that you voted for, right? You guys say that, not you guys, people who support President Trump say that he uses language that they align with, that he just gets straight to the point, right? He's a little more abrasive than most presidents, and that's okay with them. So if you supported all those antics and that toxic culture for all these years, you can't then be a part of it and say, woe is me, I'm a battered wife. I think that was kind of absurd. But nonetheless, I think that her exit from her, or vacating a position that was important for the Republican Party, is an indication that perhaps that under President Trump, the base is in more disarray than we're actually having a conversation about. And I think when Harry Enton, who I consider fair when it comes down to polling, and when he presents ideas, he's criticized Democrats and Republicans.
He's the best.
Yeah, he points to it and he's like, this is absolutely a signal for every single president historically on this list. President Trump should listen up. It's kind of like when we're still having conversation about foreign affairs and Venezuela's on the top of our list as opposed to domestic affairs. And I bring that up considerably because people are yearning, both even liberal people that expected that maybe the economy would get better, or independents that weren't all MAGA, that just expected the economy to get better, are feeling completely let down. He has to reckon for what he promised that's not being delivered.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. The people are making the criticism that he's too focused on foreign policy. Okay, but foreign policy is a major job of the president, however. Really, that's where the president historically has most leeway to do policy the way he wants, and Congress should be taking more action to manage the domestic policies of the United States, where Trump negotiates these historic peace deals, tries to bring peace to Europe, tries to bring peace to the Middle East. I'm not sure what's
Tries
going on.
to cause wars in Venezuela.
Well,
yeah.
The idea of that war being to liberate Venezuela from an autocratic dictator who's immiserated his people and plundered from them. Now, I think Congress should declare war if that's what we're going to do. It shouldn't just be at Trump's discretion.
The anti-war president, the America First president declaring war. I just want to make sure that we're putting it all in a box from what's promised.
Congress
what's being
will
delivered.
declare war.
No, he would have to suggest it and have the
He doesn't
dialogue
have to
with Congress.
suggest it. Congress can.
Congress doesn't want to go to war. They're all confused about what's happening in Venezuela.
Well, he needs
on both
to
sides of the
tell them
aisle.
He's going to do it.
Well, then he would start the conversation. He wants to go to war. The anti-war president. So that's why his policies are not aligning with what he campaigned.
I mean, the opposition leader, they want to make the president just won the Nobel Peace Prize. So there is the idea is to not have war by ousting this person, is the thinking.
Start war first and then hopefully get the Nobel Peace Prize.
I don't know if it's a good idea or not. Next up, some of the biggest social media platforms are under fire after new reports suggest they tried to downplay the addictive nature of their apps. Stay with us. All right, Lindsay, what's in your lens today?
Let's get right to it. So let me start with this. I know we're living in strange political times, but lately it feels like the federal government's social media feeds are being run by the kids that they used to warn us about online. The tone is petty, the memes are chaotic, and the creative direction feels unhinged. At the center of the chaos are artists and real people who keep getting dragged into political battles they never signed up for. This week, it was Sabrina Carpenter. The White House posted a video celebrating migrant deportations complete with federal agents, quote, handcuffing, tackling, and chasing people, all set to Sabrina's song, Juno. And she didn't mince words. In her response, she wrote on X, quote, "This video is evil and disgusting. Do not ever involve me or my music to benefit your inhumane agenda." And she's not wrong. The Trump administration doubled down, with the White House spokeswoman, Abigail Jackson, emailing a snarky response referencing Sabrina's own album title. Quote, "Here's a short and sweet message for Sabrina Carpenter. We won't apologize for deporting dangerous, criminal, illegal murderers, rapists, and pedophiles. Anyone who would defend these sick monsters must be stupid, or is it slow?" That was a quote from Sabrina's own lyric from Manchild, "Stupid, or is it slow?" But Sabrina isn't the only one saying, "Keep my art out of your politics." Even Franklin the turtle, yes, this gentle little turtle from Canadian children's series, is somehow caught in an international crossfire. The U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared a meme of Franklin firing a rocket launcher from a helicopter on what looked like a narco crime mission. He captioned it, "For your Christmas wish list." The publisher quickly clapped back, quote, "Franklin the turtle is a beloved Canadian icon." They went on to say, "We strongly condemn any denigrating, violent, or unauthorized use of Franklin's name or image which directly contradicts these values." And the list goes on. Norman Rockwell's family publicly condemned the Department of Homeland Security for pairing Rockwell's nostalgic paintings with slogans like "Protect our American way of life" to push anti-immigration messaging. Rockwell's descendants said the artist would be, quote, "devastated to see his work marshaled for the cause of persecution towards immigrant communities and people of color." The family of painter Thomas Kincaid demanded DHS remove his artwork from posts pushing, quote, "protect the homeland." They said it promoted division and xenophobia. Even Celine Dion asked why, quote, "My Heart Will Go On," the popular song of all songs, was blasting at a Trump rally in Montana. Halo, the video game, the original art director called the DHS's use of the game's imagery, quote, "absolutely abhorrent." And comedian Theo Von forced the department to pull a clip of him on its social media, saying his views on immigration are, quote, "a lot more nuanced than the video they posted allows." Artists of every genre, medium, and generation are saying the same thing. Stop dragging us into this. When the government's official platforms start looking like troll accounts, chasing engagement is not just embarrassing. At this point, it's not about politics, it's about professionalism. Because whether you're Sabrina Carpenter, Celine Dion, Theo Von, or Franklin the Turtle, nobody wants to be associated with an administration that uses memes like middle schoolers and calls it governance.
Have you seen the meme, "All your memes are belong to us"?
No.
That's what's going on here. I mean, look, I've been told my whole life by the left that art is political. All right, Trump allies, the MAGA movement are borrowing art for their own political purposes, just as the left has always said. And you're enforcing this view of copyright that you own your artistic creation and should have final and ultimate say over how it is used. I'm not sure I believe in that, honestly.
Well, so Robert,
do I find?
Are you an
some
artist?
of the-
Are you an artist? Do you have do you express yourself in any other way besides political debate?
Yes, in my role as a Dungeons and Dragons dungeon master,
Okay.
I draw little maps and things.
Okay.
My art is about second grade level, I
Okay.
would say. It's competitive with second graders.
So let's just use that art.
Yeah.
You might draw and be inspired to draw with Dungeons and Dragons and have a message that you want to put in there that only people who understand Dungeons and Dragons and anybody else who gets context clues may really understand, but it's your message that could be political, but it's yours because you drew it. That doesn't mean that you want the Department of Homeland Security taking your message, misconstruing it, and making it mean what they want it
Look,
to mean.
if they don't own the copyright for it and they can't use it, then they got to take it down. That's fine.
Yes, exactly. But even with someone like Theo Von, who's a supporter and podcaster, interviewed President
Some of
Trump
these
and had a
aren't the
friendly
same.
interview. No, he said, take this down. You're using it in the wrong way. It's most of these things that I name are related to immigration videos
Franklin
that are
thing-
used in the wrong way.
the Franklin
thing was related to narco terrorists and a cartoon that little babies watch, and they have him shooting a gun, pretending like he's part of this this Venezuela drama, and they think that's appropriate in the middle of us harassing Canada and taxing them and tariffing them to no end. They're harassing people that don't want to be involved. Franklin the Turtle and its creator certainly does not want to be involved in our narco-terror drama with Venezuela.
Well, I'm sorry. Franklin, the imagery of Franklin is being appropriated by conservatives for a conservative purpose. They can do that. I don't know what you want to say.
If no one wants to be involved, get a clue. Just get a clue. People actually want to be governed in real ways, like the narco counterterrorism or counter-narcotics, whatever we're calling it now, so that it could appease Trump's agenda, is something that most of American public on both sides of the aisle have verbally disagreed with. Leadership on both sides have said, we need more clarity here. The American public is confused about what's going on, and they're making jokes at the same time. Wait, let me finish. Without providing answers, they're posting memes of Franklin the Turtle. People are actually concerned about immigration. There are studies that have come out, specifically the Latin American group in America that Trump has touted gaining more votes from, is protesting against the way that he's treating people in their community in the U.S. And so that's also a problem. He's losing support there. And then not to mention the overall approval rating, much of which because of the economy and some of these
What does this have to do with Franklin the Turtle?
Because I'm just saying, these are policies that they're acting like Franklin, Celine Dion, everybody supports, and these are some of the policies which is names why the approval rating's so low.
I mean, that image that we have on screen,
yes,
that is a manipulated image from AI, I presume.
Yes, that his creators don't want to happen.
But
we really just blew up boats and killed people.
Let me finish. The creator doesn't own that image. You can do that. It doesn't violate copyright laws. Sorry. Or we need a new category of law, I guess, to decide whether it does. I think it's a manipulation of the image that you no longer own the image for a political purpose. You can disagree with it, but I don't, what is the argument you're making?
Can you guys pull up the Franklin picture again? Out of common decency, since we just killed people that may be innocent.
Well,
Franklin's the actual character that somebody created and copywrote. But
yeah.
But this image, we literally in a conversation as we speak, doing segments on Rising about killing innocent, perhaps maybe innocent people that are related to this counter-narcotics mission that the president is going forward with, that has friction on both sides of the aisle and internationally, and then you put this cartoon up within the last few days. I just have a problem with
I object to the policy, not the cartoon.
No, I object to the fact that our leadership is this immature. That's the part that I object to. That the whole world is watching and really wants answers, and your answer is posting a cartoon.
I don't know.
Most of which doesn't want to be involved with any of this.
But you can post a cartoon. For instance, I saw one, Franklin escorts Candace Owens to the mental health hospital, that I thought was hilarious.
Okay, but are you not going to respond to the maturity of it all? That people are actually dying and we're posting memes from the leadership account.
I guess I don't care about the meme. I care about the policy. The policy, I have said, I do object to. I think Congress has to declare war on Venezuela or on narco-terrorists for this to be a legitimate action. It's not really the second firing that seems to have bothered everyone. If they have the authority to destroy the boat, they have the authority to kill the people. I question whether the military action being taken against the boat is consistent with the Constitution. But I don't quite. Of course, they can defend. They're going to defend it from a public relations standpoint with cartoons. They can do
Sabrina
that.
Carpenter with ice raids. It's just like, no. Just people want real solutions, long-term solutions, and effective communication from the highest of leadership.
This is effective communication.
No, it's not. And so social media is now a tool that we use, you said, to effectively get in.
I don't think Democrats have figured out what effective communication is. This is
not effective communication. This
I
is
disagree.
Poor and childish and immature when people want real answers about serious, perhaps war crimes that are being committed by our country. But if he wants to put
they're not going to admit. They're not going to
jokes about
their
it.
position is not that they're committing war crimes. So they're not going to put in their messaging, we are committing war crimes.
Their position should not be make a joke out of it and find ways to attack, whether it's about the Venezuela situation or Sabrina Carpenter about immigration and ice raids. It should be to find a long-term solution to immigration, not attack an artist because she doesn't want her music associated with
Is now the time when
people.
I confess I don't know who Sabrina Carpenter is?
You do know who she is. Stop. Yes,
she is.
And you do this
What's
all
her
the time.
song?
He wants to her most popular song is Espresso, but you do know who she is. And you try to pretend, but you do.
This is some white girl.
Robbie knows who she is.
All right, let us know what you think about the Franklin memes. Coming up, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik was enraged at her own side to Speaker Mike Johnson earlier this week over an Arctic frost-related provision that she was trying to get passed. Things may have cooled down now. Stay with us. All right, Lindsay, what's in your lens today?
Money, money, money. So here's the truth I keep coming back to. Under President Trump, the presidency isn't just public service. It's big business. And the customers with the most access are the ones with the biggest checks. Private wealth has basically become an unofficial operating arm of this administration. Billionaires aren't just donating to ideas they believe in. They're funding policies, programs, and even physical spaces that shape Trump's presidency itself. And the benefits are tax breaks, proximity, influence, and they aren't exactly subtle. Take Michael Dell's historic gift this week. On paper, his $6.25 billion donation to, quote, seed Trump accounts for kids sounds generous. It will put $250 into 25 million child investment accounts. But if you look a little closer, the donation doesn't go through Congress, doesn't require bipartisan compromise, and expands a benefit lawmakers didn't approve: $1,000 for newborns starting next year. Now, don't get me wrong, I think donating money to children is a lovely thing, but I do think Congress should be involved in that decision making. Even Dell's role is framed not as civic contribution, but as dividend of policy. Check out President Trump discussing it himself.
This gift is being made possible by the largest tax cuts in American history, which our Republican majorities passed earlier this year.
And the White House isn't shy about the point they're making. White House spokesman Kush Desai told Axios in a statement, quote, "Thanks to President Trump's leadership, America's richest billionaires are giving away their money to make America great again. From investing in Trump accounts for our children's future to supporting our troops, Democrats could only dream of accomplishing this." Of course, we've seen this before. GOP mega donor Timothy Mellon wrote a $130 million check to cover troop salaries during the government shutdown, which amounted to about $100 per service member. Again, a private donor stepping in where government couldn't or wouldn't. But donations aren't just underwriting public programs. They're underwriting Trump's world. His 2025 inaugural committee shattered all records, raising $245 million, nearly triple what he raised in 2017. More came from million-dollar donors than most inaugurations raised in total. His transition fund was funded by a roster of billionaires, cabinet picks, and his future appointees. Now his 250th anniversary Army Parade, corporate sponsors with deep financial and political ties to Trump: Palantir, Coinbase, Oracle. Ethics lawyers warned it could create the appearance that the U.S. government endorsed the brands of Trump insiders. And now the new White House ballroom that Robbie loves, a 90,000 square foot project replacing part of the East Wing, financed by Trump's own money plus corporate donors, many of whom have business before the administration right now. The price tag is creeping toward $300 million, but JP Morgan Chase declined to contribute, with CEO Jamie Dimon explaining he couldn't risk the perception of, quote, buying favors that might create problems with, quote, the next DOJ. That should tell you everything you need to know. Even Trump seems comfortable openly shopping new ideas to his wealthiest friends, including a Triumph Arc near the Lincoln Memorial. And then there's the crypto piece, where the line between public power and private profit gets really blurry. Back in May, Trump hosted the highest paying customers of his personal cryptocurrency business at the White House. A sitting president giving VIP access to customers of his own company is already a red flag. Then came the pardon of Changpeng Zhao, the billionaire co-founder of Binance, who had pleaded guilty to violating anti-money laundering laws, served 4 months, and then paid a $50 million fine. But Zhao is worth nearly $80 billion. His exchange has promoted a stable coin issued by a crypto firm backed by the Trump family. And Trump later said on 60 Minutes that he didn't know who Zhao was. Look, where there's this much smoke, at minimum, we could acknowledge that somebody is actually lighting a match. Now, some conservatives say this is efficiency, private money stepping in where government is slow or ineffective. But there's a bigger question here. When wealthy patrons fund the presidency itself, its programs, its ceremonies, and even its buildings, who does the government ultimately answer to? Because the more politics start to look like a VIP club, the fewer seats the public actually has inside.
Isn't it a problem that the CEO of JP Morgan doesn't think he can make a contribution to this public works project because a future Democratic administration would come down on him for that? Isn't that the real problem here? That a Democratic DOJ would punish you for contributing to the White House renovation?
I don't take it that way. I take it as he would say no to a Democratic administration as well, because a Republican administration.
Well, I think it's bad either way.
No, I think
the
he's being
weaponization
apolitical.
of government is bad.
Yeah, and I think that as the CEO of a major corporation like that, he's trying to stay apolitical because he's doing business. He's not trying to get in the fray of politics.
Political to give to the White House ballroom. The White House is going to be occupied by members of both parties.
No, there's several initiatives
building.
that are public, like how we talked about the Dells yesterday. It's a beautiful thing to give to kids, and Chase has many charities that I'm aware of, right? But that doesn't mean that they need to get involved with President Trump's charity that he's actually touting as a thing that Republicans pushed through because of some tax cuts and the reason why it opened up this door for him to fund children's private accounts that'll grow for them. This is all beautiful, but he's trying to do it to give himself an account that's named after him so he can go down in history as
changing
lives.
He likes to put his name on things.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. Chase doesn't have to be involved with that. And so Dell is choosing to be involved. It's noble of what it can actually get accomplished. But this is something that needs to go through Congress. And so the president likes to skip over those steps and take money from multiple people.
The White House renovation is something that needs to go through Congress?
No, that needed to go through the board that generally clears projects like that. And we talked about that in detail, how he skipped over them or fired half of them, right? That's a whole different issue. But I'm talking about the many ways that people that have business before President Trump tend to pay him or pay into the government in some way and then get their business handled how they want, right? It's a lot of shaky business practices that I spent about 7 minutes discussing. And so you can't lump them all into this Dell project or talk about just the renovations. I want you to address it all. You don't think anything's wrong with the crypto relationships that we're seeing in the government. You don't think anything's wrong with the fact that he has relationships with people that have money, projects and initiatives before him, and he's having relationships where they're sending money to him. You don't think anything's wrong with any of these relationships. You just think it's all fine and the president should do this.
No, I didn't say that. I think the business of America is business, and America our regulation should be friendly to prosperity and to people investing in America and creating value in the marketplace. The thing I dislike them very most is one firm or one industry trying to get an advantage over the other by bribing the government. If that's what's going on, I'm very much against it. If they're just supportive of Trump, because under Trump, unlike under Democrats, under Trump, there is generally permissivity and allowing, there's less government regulation. It's firms setting their own rules, which is the better way I want it to be. So they are supporting Trump, because if they were to support Democrats, then you end up with Elizabeth Warren and Lena Khan and others who want to destroy big business, want to destroy business entirely, think billionaires shouldn't exist, think crypto should probably be regulated out of existence. I think that's Elizabeth Warren's plan. They can't even exist under a Democratic rule. You saw the tech executives learned. I remember when Mark Zuckerberg, before Elon Musk was Republican, Mark Zuckerberg was a partisan Democrat. Tim Cook, all these people were much more supportive of the Democratic Party than they were of the Republican Party. And what they learned is that that's a waste of our time and effort to try to cozy up to Democrats because they're trying to destroy us. They want to regulate us out of existence. They think a big, successful organization is a policy failure. They think Amazon is a bad thing. Amazon, which has mastered the art of meeting human need, should be broken up and destroyed because some of its workers don't like working there. Maybe they should work somewhere else then. That's the ideology of the Democratic Party. So eventually all those people got smart and they said, you know what? We should be Republicans. We should be with the Republican Party because the Republican Party got mad at us when we censored Republican speech, as Facebook did, but that was the government was making us do that anyway. We'll say that, we'll make the case, we'll stop being mean to Republicans, and they'll let us be unregulated, and that's the deal that was struck, and I think it's basically the correct deal for America. So that's where we are.
But I think you're oversimplifying because a lot of times these big businesses have the money to pay, to lobby, to argue some of their points and what they'd like to accomplish. But then there are the smaller people that work for those corporations and that don't have the money to pay President Trump in the way that he's getting paid by donating big sums of money to initiatives that he cares about. But their voices should still be heard. The government is supposed to represent everybody, not just big businesses. And so a lot of times when you look at all the allies that the president has made and who's putting money before him and what initiatives that he wants to move forward, then you're like, okay, well, this is a money game. So what about the average American that can't be in this conversation?
The average
that
American
works at Amazon in the factories
better.
And just wants to be treated better by the unions and is arguing those points. So maybe there's a balance between an Elizabeth Warren perspective. Maybe she doesn't want to get rid of Amazon completely, but she just wants workers to not be treated unfairly.
My view is
and so
they
should, that's what the government can do is work together
and demonize the wealthy and the successful ends up helping the poor and less well off. No program that sets out to do that ends up making things better. You can bring down the top earners. You can't lift up the bottom that way. That's my view.
Well, we're just going to agree to disagree.
Okay.
Up next, Governor Josh Shapiro has some choice words for VP Kamala Harris. We'll be right back after this.